Business is FN hard.
Business is FN hard.
Business is FN hard. Business is FN hard.
Business is FN hard. On today's episode, meet Lauren Dozier, owner of Dozier Financial Services, LLC.
Doing things to show your client and the business owner that you do truly care about them and you want what's best for their business, that's what's going to make people trust you.
And Cristin Smith, Director of Franchisee Onboarding and Training of Empower Brands.
That's where the challenges lie in family business, is that idea of ground rules and boundaries.
Get ready to get real, because business is FN hard. All right, we are live. Welcome back to Business is FN hard, guys. I am your host, Kinsey Houston, and I'm thrilled to have you with us for another episode where we dive into the real challenges and lessons of entrepreneurship. So today we have two incredible guests joining us. They'll be sharing their insights and experiences with us for this episode. We have Cristin Smith, the Director of Franchisee Onboarding and Training at Empower Brands. And we have Lauren Dozier, owner of Dozier Financial Services, LLC. So rather than me doing all the talking here, I will turn it over to our guests and we will hear from them for their introductions. So Cristin, can you start by telling us a bit about yourself and your journey?
Yeah, thanks, Kinsey. So I am the Director of Franchisee Onboarding and Training, like you mentioned, at Empower Brands. I've been with Empower since 2011. This is where I consider home professionally. But before this home of mine, I worked with my family's franchise business in Augusta, Georgia. They own and operate quick service restaurants. And so I love that from a professional home standpoint, I found myself back on the franchisor side of this business and love that I am in the franchising space, still getting to help small business owners develop their own goals and live out their dreams of business ownership.
Thank you so much, Cristin, and thanks for joining us today. It's super interesting to hear about your background a little bit and also the unique perspective that you bring from both family business and with your current role.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get into that a little bit later. Thank you, Cristin. And Miss Lauren, can you introduce yourself and share a bit about your business journey?
Yeah. So my name's Lauren Dozier. I'm the founder and CEO of Dozier Financial Services. We provide bookkeeping services to small businesses. I think the term bookkeeping is a little bit quaint. I wish it were something different, but a lot of what I do is really more in the controllership space. So not only am I categorizing transactions that the business has, but I'm also interpreting financial statements and managing AR, AP, interpreting or helping with budgeting and comparing budgets versus actuals, and really being a partner with the business owner and all of the financial aspects of their business. So that's really fun. I come from an accounting and finance background. I was actually a financial analyst for a Fortune 500 company for about 6 years until I had my first baby in 2020. And that was a very interesting time. So I did, full-time working mom gig for about 1 month and then went part-time and did that for about a year and then ultimately decided to retire early to raise my baby. So since then, I've had a second baby. I have two beautiful little girls and have been full-time stay-at-home mom for a few years. And I'm finally getting back into the world of accounting, which I have missed. So it's been really great to get back into this space, but this time as a business owner and not as an employee. So there's a lot of familiar elements to it, but a lot of unfamiliar as well. And I'm enjoying almost all of it. Not all of it, but almost all of it.
Totally understandable.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for sharing and for joining us today. It's really nice to hear about your path so far and the passion that you truly have just for helping clients with their financial needs. So now that we've gotten to know you both a little bit better, let's go ahead and dive into today's topics. Lauren, I'd love to start with you. You mentioned earlier when we were talking that client acquisition is a challenge that you're currently navigating. finding your ideal clients and transitioning them from that potential client stage to actual clients. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Yeah. So, like you said, identifying and finding and acquiring the ideal client, right, is the struggle, because not every business owner that you interact with is going to be a potential client. If you're familiar with, I wrote it down because it's kind of wordy, the Bold House hierarchy of prospect readiness is kind of something that I've kept in mind as I'm interacting with people. And it divides potential clients into the category of they are never going to be ready for your services, like they are never actually going to hire you. There's a percent of people who might be ready, or they will be ready in the future, but just not right now. You've got an even smaller percentage of people who are almost ready, but there's just maybe one or two things that have to happen before they're ready to pull the trigger and hire, whoever it may be for a service. And then you've got a very small percentage, they estimate 1 to 3% of people who are actually ready right now. So we talked about this during our earlier call. I got really lucky with my first client. She was in that 1 to 3% ready now category. And she contacted me. And during our discovery call, she said, "Can you start yesterday?" And it was just like as easy as it could have been. And it was awesome. And I have not had that experience since. So I'm now in a space of having to analyze, okay, am I doing everything that I need to be doing to interact with potential clients? And the people that I'm meeting, are they just in a category where it's like they're not quite ready and that's why things aren't happening? Is it an issue? I'm just really off-putting during the sales call or something like that, and I need to fine-tune things on that end. What's the area of responsibility? Is it out of my control, or is there something else that I really need to be doing? So, I can only control what I can control. So I've been putting more of an effort into networking. I've been attending some B&I breakfast meetings, and that's been actually really exciting, getting to network with other business owners in the area. And actually, most of those people I would put in the they're never going to be potential clients category, but that's okay. I'm still networking with people in my area and making connections that way. I've also heard some people suggest the Chamber of Commerce. So that's not a step that I have taken yet, but it's on my radar. So I think there are lots of things that I can be doing. And I'm trying to get there and take those steps. So that's what is kind of challenging for me right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an important insight, Lauren. Both building trust and that relationship aspect is vital. But like you said, being able to find the balance between trust building and proactive outreach can definitely be tricky. I love that you mentioned the Chamber of Commerce. That's something that I can definitely speak to. I was a part of the Chamber of Commerce in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, when I had initially started with this company that I'm now working remotely in Kansas City in. And when I had moved there initially, I didn't know anyone, and it was actually kind of a smaller area where everybody already knew each other, and the chamber was perfect to get into the community and meet with different groups of people who would introduce me to other groups of people and really just help me expand my network and just find my footing within the community.
Yeah, that's good feedback. Thank you.
And go ahead, Cristin.
Sorry. I just had an idea that I wanted to throw out there just to know. Lauren, have you tried to connect with any CPA tax preparing firms that maybe don't offer bookkeeping services or could not put bookkeeping at like a appropriately rated rate of like billable rate for a client, where maybe what you can offer supplements what they offer to their clients so that they already know the client and you can become a trusted partner for them?
Yeah, I think that's a really great idea. I haven't reached out to people that I have had no contact with. That makes me so nervous doing that. But actually, a lot of the CPA tax preparers in my area, Northwest Arkansas, do provide bookkeeping services. There are some that don't. So it's kind of a what comes first, chicken or the egg scenario where, the first client that I talked about, she has a CPA who does not provide bookkeeping services. So there's no competition there. It's actually really collaborative. So I'm optimistic that by doing a really great job and being an asset to the CPA, that in the future that will turn into referrals. But I'm sure there certainly is opportunity to be a bit more proactive and reach out to people that I haven't worked with already. So if you have any suggestions on how to do that and not be sales pitchy, that's the challenge. It's like, how do you present that in a way that somebody will actually listen and be open to the opportunity and not just, ignore your phone call or something.
I think the key to not being sales pitchy is to be vulnerable, right? Walk in and say, what can I learn from you? And how can we partner from that learning experience? I think that it opens the door for a relationship where the vulnerability creates trust. And then they know what kind of person you are that they're recommending their clients to. So I think it's kind of nice that you're nervous and uncomfortable, and I would own it. I'd call partners and, be confident in the skill set that you provide, but vulnerable in the moment of saying, hey, you have something that I'd like to learn. Can we chat? Can we do lunch and engage opportunity build a relationship?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more with you, Cristin, because I know you said, Lauren, that and the idea of reaching out to people that you've never talked to before can be a little bit nerve-wracking, but at the same time, that's what we are, doing right now. This is your first, like you said, your first podcast. Woo-hoo. I'm glad you chose us to be on it. So by being vulnerable and just by being you, I think that truly will resonate with people. Being a little bit scared or nervous, but doing it anyway, that is what trust is all about, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for the encouragement.
Absolutely. And Cristin, I'd love to hear your perspective on challenges as well. You've had the unique experience of working at a family business and navigating the opportunities and difficulties that come with it. Can you share some of the biggest challenges that you've faced and what you've learned from them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start back at the beginning, right? I was in college trying to find my way and figure out what it was I wanted to do. And I was just adamant that I was not going to go into the family business. I was getting a college degree. I wasn't going to work in the restaurants. This was not what it was about. And though I appreciated the hard work and everything that was being offered to me by my parents because of their jobs and the company that they owned, I also was so sure I did not want to do that. And, I took some time away. I walked away from it after I got my degree in accounting and said, maybe I can use this degree in accounting to help my family, right? And so I came back and I said, all right, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I do want to work in the family business, but can we set some ground rules? And I think that's where the challenges lie in family business, is that idea of ground rules and boundaries. And it's hard to keep boundaries when you're working with your mom, your brother, your dad, your sister, your aunt, your cousin. And that was all happening in those restaurants. We had cousins that worked as shift leaders. I had an aunt who was the training director. My mom was the bookkeeper. My dad was running the show. During my time, my brother ended up coming back from college and taking on a general manager's role and eventually an area director's role. My sister joined us as an HR professional. Like, we were all in it. And the boundary building and maintaining was the biggest challenge for us. And I would love to hear someone else's perspective on this. I think what we did was we created space where it was safe to talk about business. And then we had spaces that were this is not an acceptable topic on the back porch in front of the pool. We don't talk business here. That's not what happens. And so, again, creating those boundaries, but mom and dad's house was always the safe space. Once everybody was inside mom and dad's house, we weren't allowed to talk business. So I think that's the biggest challenge that I experienced from a family business perspective. It's hard to hold each other accountable when you're failing in family business and knowing when it's time to walk away and how to accept that separation. But the boundary keeping was really, really the toughest. And what I parlay that to in terms of my current role is understanding that each one of our franchisees are likely operating a family-owned and operated business, right? And so they have that same dynamic. And so when you get a mom on the phone or a son on the phone who's maybe slightly too energetic in the moment, has a lot of personality and a lot of opinions, understanding that there's a dynamic behind them that is that boundaries and trying to hold each other accountable and trying to answer that call for each other in that moment. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Cristin.
absolutely.
Definitely. It sounds like family businesses in general can be almost like a double-edged sword, full of a lot of opportunities, but a lot of challenges as well. And being able to, like you said, putting boundaries in place and having a time and place for tough conversations. I'm sure it can be difficult to have like conflict on a Tuesday in the afternoon at work and then sit down at dinner like everything's totally fine and not talk about it that night.
Yes, Sunday morning breakfast at mom and dad's was sometimes a little quiet, right? Because we were all like, oh, we got to go back on Monday and deal with that stuff.
Pretend like it's cordial for now. We're at mom's house.
Cristin, were you said when you had graduated with your accounting degree, took some time away from the family business and then came back, and boundaries were really important to you right off the bat. Were you like one of the first ones in your family and in the business to make that a priority? Like, were you the one having to figure all that out, or was that kind of expectation already set?
No, so it was actually one of the things that it was a condition of my return, because I had watched my mom and dad allow their business to just become everything in life. And dad didn't shut off, right? Dad was always on go mode. And though the flexibility of being able to hop out of bed and go to the office in your jammies for my mom and key in a few vendor bills or, take a phone call from the bank or work on a payroll, journal entry, any of those kinds of things that my mom was doing at the time, she also was, moving from there to the laundry room and taking that insurance call at the same time. And I was like, this is like, it's too much. Like, and not that we shouldn't be able to juggle all the things, because that is what small business owners do, juggle all the things, right? But there was no off button, no line. And so one of the conditions of me coming back was, hey guys, I understand and I appreciate all of the hard work you've put into this, but I still want you to be mom and dad to me. And so I want to walk in and not feel that pressure if we can. Like, sometimes it's just not possible. Sometimes you cannot establish that boundary and maintain that boundary and hold everything. There's too many things going on. When you've got too many fires, it doesn't work out. But when we set the expectation that there are boundaries, right? And that's what I looked for. So let's work on this. Things like Memorial Day off or Labor Day off. Like, when you own your own business, you don't get to take those days off, right?
Yeah.
As an employee to my parents' business, I was like, by golly, I am taking off Memorial Day. I will be in your pool drinking a nice cocktail and enjoying myself, and you should join me.
Yeah.
So let's do this.
And you're not going to be sitting within earshot on the back porch talking to me about payroll.
That's a very silly little example, right? There's much more serious boundaries that needed to be set. But yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing. When I came back, I was like, let's make sure we're clear here. I will do this, but I also get to lounge in the pool on Memorial Day. Yeah.
Definitely. And What I'd like to do next, ladies, is explore some actionable insights for our audience. So, Lauren, we were talking earlier about the importance of building trust with potential clients. And I know sometimes you talked about, am I focusing too much on that trust aspect? Should I be taking another proactive approach? But really, like Cristin and I had both said, being vulnerable and having that trust is truly, from our perspectives anyway, a really important aspect of it. So when talking about building that trust in general with potential clients, with actual clients, what strategies have you personally found to be effective by taking the steps to build that trust? And what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs maybe struggling with client acquisition as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, so some good advice that I heard early on, and I've tried to remember and to implement it, is people don't care about your resume. If you're having a conversation with a potential client on that discovery call, they don't care about where you worked before or how well you know accounting or how great you are at your job. I mean, all of those things are important, but that's not what they really care about. I think a great way to build trust is really listening to the business owner and asking them, okay, of all the things that you're doing with your current accounting processes, what's working well, number one, so I can understand what you like, and we don't need to change something if it isn't broken. But what is not going well? What do you want to be better? Like, tell me about all of these pain points, and let's talk about how we can fix that and how we can address the specific issues that you're having, and really making it about the business owner and their specific struggles. And I think that really resonates with people. So, like balancing you do want to build trust. But as we were talking about earlier, it takes time, because before somebody's going to open up their books to you and let you see every single thing that their business is spending money on, like, that's so personal. Before they get to that point, they have to know you and like you and trust you. And that process is something that I am trying to do as I'm connecting with other business owners in the area and meeting new people, is trying to utilize LinkedIn as well as Instagram and Facebook. But I'm really trying to lean into LinkedIn more and not being sales pitchy, because nobody likes that, but trying to post content that is helpful for other people. Maybe they are not in a place yet where they're ready to outsource their bookkeeping and their accounting, but they could really use some QuickBooks tips. Maybe there's something that I share that they're like, oh gosh, that would be helpful. I should start utilizing the project setting, or maybe use some customers instead of having all of these thousands of customers. If there's something like that I can post and share just to build some rapport, but also like actually provide a helpful service, I think that goes a long way with people. At least that's what I'm hoping.
I couldn't agree more with you, Lauren. I think it's fantastic advice. And, trust truly is the foundation of just a strong personal and professional relationship, both just in life. Having that trust is the first step to actually having real conversations. Mm-hmm. And I love what you said about I'm more than my resume piece. And you may have not worded it in that way, but I that's how I word it. I also do a little bit of recruiting for my company. And of course, I look at resumes. Of course, resumes are important, but conversations, real conversations, I tell candidates, like, this conversation right now that we're having is so much more important to me than what a piece of paper could tell me about you. Mm-hmm. And presenting yourself in that authentic way, asking them, hey, tell me what's working good so we don't reinvent the wheel, and tell me what's not working good so we can form a game plan and make things better. Mm-hmm. I think you're doing everything right. And just like you said, it just takes some time to build those relationships and truly understand the pain points.
Yeah. And I think going a little bit above and beyond to do something that is just genuinely helpful and insightful for, a current client or just somebody that you're networking with. It doesn't have to necessarily benefit you also. You could suggest something especially if that client relationship is already established and you're doing the things that you have been contracted to do, but maybe there's something that you say, hey, I know that this is a goal for you, and I've noticed that this business activity seems to be contradicting this goal. Maybe we could think about reworking this. And it's just some advice that you're giving, but doing things to show your client and the business owner that like you do truly care about them and you want what's best for their business. Like that's what's going to make people trust you. Like when you can prove that you actually have their best interest at heart and it's not just a beneficial relationship for you. So
absolutely. That it's actually a relationship and not just a number.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you, Lauren. And Cristin, pivoting to you and talking about working in a family business, it often involves navigating those complex personal dynamics. So what would you say to someone who's currently in a similar situation than to what you were in the past, or someone considering entering and exiting a family business?
Yeah. So I think for someone who's in it right now, I think know what's in your heart and understand where you're coming from in the relationship, and then also assuming the best of the other person, right? And in all moments with business, with my family at least, I experienced, some really ugly sides of some family members, but then had to like step back and be like, this is not personal. This is not me versus them. This is them working through something, trying their best. And I happen to be the one receiving the message. And I think that we tend to be more comfortable to be our ugly selves with the people that we are closest to, right? And so just remembering to give grace and to like say, I am trying my best and I have to assume that they are trying their best. Yeah. Is it possible that that is not true? Absolutely. But if you walk in that space, assuming that of others, you tend to have more grace for their actions, right? And I would say if you're considering family business, do it. There is no better way to get to know your family. I live and breathe this every day with our small business owners and Empower Brands. Our franchisees are family businesses. That's what they do. And, a lot of these are legacy businesses where moms and dads have set this up for a son or a daughter to accept or a cousin to accept. Like, it is so much fun to see these families grow and develop and then pass the wealth, the knowledge, the experience on, the financial freedom that comes with it, and the ability to just be present in each other's lives. I think that it's something in modern day, that community, that village that we sometimes miss. And it's a fantastic way to rebuild that by being in business together. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Cristin. Truly, I mean, your advice about balancing personal relationships with the professional responsibilities is invaluable, both to people in family business and just business owners, entrepreneurs and team members in general. You always have to remind yourself not to take things personally and that nobody's perfect. Everybody is going to kind of have a day or two, in their work life where they're just not themselves. They're not at their 100%. And putting yourself in their shoes, understanding that, we all have those days. Don't take things personally. Let's just figure out how we can talk about this. Maybe it's a different time when you can cool off a little bit, the other person, but being able to understand and not let it sit with you and let it affect you and take it personally. It's easier said than done, but navigating that and balancing it, it's an invaluable advice for sure. Yeah. And before we wrap up for today, I would love for each of you to share what's next for you and how our listeners can connect with you. So, Cristin, could you tell us what is coming up for you this year goal-wise and where our audience can find you?
Yeah. So I'm excited. Empower Brands is growing. We have, over the last 3 or 4 years now, gone through some significant changes, becoming an organization of 10 brands instead of just 3. Actually, it was 2 and 3 and then 5 and then now 10. Like, it's been a lot, right? And in that process, I hopped from accounting and finance, sitting in a controller's chair, over to the operations side of the business. And so completely changed the dynamic of myself in that professional space. So in the coming year, what do I hope to accomplish? I want to find additional ways for my team to integrate and support our brand teams. My team spends a lot of time with our brand new franchisees, and we do a lot of supporting in the very early aspects of the business. So we're looking for ways to continue that relationship that we've built and how to best support our franchise businesses once they've exited the onboarding phase. So that's where we're at.
That is awesome. It sounds like Empower Brands has been doing a lot of growing. And so I hope the same for you guys. I hope 2025 is filled with a lot more learning and a lot more growth and expansion. That's awesome.
So very.
And Miss Lauren, could you tell us what is next for Dozier Financial Services and how people can connect with you?
Yeah. So first of all, how you can connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, and I have a business, Instagram and Facebook. Also have a website, so you can touch base with me any of those places. I'd love to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. I've been really enjoying that space and just seeing what people are up to. So yeah, send me a connection request. But yeah, this past year, well, the end of 2024 and then going into 2025, I'm kind of moving from, okay, this is my side gig that I'm doing kind of for fun and just so I can do accounting again, because I really missed journal entries and I missed all of those things. Going from, okay, this is something that I do on the side, to now having an opportunity to make it more of a full-time, larger scale thing. So really focusing on, getting a few more clients and making it able to scale to the level that I want it to be. And Cristin, it's been really interesting to hear you talk about boundaries with family members and that sort of thing, because my husband is also an accountant, and we've kind of been talking about, like, okay, is he going to be involved in this? Because right now it's just been me and a contractor that I have. But it's like, okay, is he going to be involved? I kind of call him my unpaid intern, which I think is hilarious. He doesn't really like that term. But okay, if we were both to work on the business together, what does that look like? Because that could be very tricky, so it's been really insightful to hear your thoughts and advice. So thank you for that.
I think husband-wife duos are fantastic when you guys know each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
You have to complement each other.
Lots of growth for both of us, it sounds like, in the next year.
Absolutely, it does. It's just what I was going to say. Took the words right out of my mouth. Best of luck with your company and with growing in 2025, Lauren. I can't wait to hear how it's gone for you. We'll have to have you guys on again sometime in the future. I truly enjoyed today's conversation. Thank you both so much for joining us today, and just for sharing your stories, your challenges, and your overall wisdom.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's been great.
And to our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't just keep it to yourself. Be sure to share it with a fellow entrepreneur who may need to hear this message today. Be sure to follow Businesses Effing Hard on your favorite platform for more unfiltered, real talk episodes. And remember, the path to success is rarely a straight line, but every twist and turn that you have brings a lesson worth learning. So keep pushing, keep believing, and most of all, keep being unapologetically you. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, we will see you later.